Okay, it's a Saturday morning, and since I have a lot to do today, I thought it made sense to make a video just showing off how I actually do my work and what that process looks like. So this is kind of my to-do list. I'll usually just have a list of things that I want to get done during the day, and then tick off the today if I get it done. And you can see I also track the amount of work that I'm doing, and so if I step away, even if it's just to like go to the loo or grab a snack or something, I'll just pause, and then it just keeps me honest to myself. So okay, today I've already written a Beehive post. So if you're not aware, I've been working on building a newsletter, and the way that I got this set up, basically because I've never done a newsletter before, is I just look at the top performing newsletter or whatever format that I'm trying to copy. I just look at the top performer in that format and just try and copy the things that I can see, right? Because there are going to be so many things that I don't even know they're doing that is making them successful. I took inspiration from a bunch of different newsletters. I subscribed to a bunch of them and I just looked at a bunch of them, but I ended up taking the most amount of direct inspiration from this one, Creator Spotlight. And it's because they had a way of breaking down long form newsletters. So like, if you just scroll down, this is a really long newsletter. A lot of the ones that I'd seen have posts that are between like 200 to 500 words long, and this one is well over 1,000. And so the way that they've broken down the data just really made sense and was really intuitive to me. And I knew that my newsletters were probably going to be a little bit longer, so I had to take inspiration from something longer form. So you can see this way of breaking things down into colors coded blocks. I've just directly copied the headers being a different color. I also really like, so I just copied that. The image at the top is also something I copied. And so just by looking at that one email, I've gone from my emails looking like this, which is my first sort of iteration of the welcome email that I sent out, right? You can see it's a little bit messier, I think, harder to take in information here versus this, which is what my first post is going to look like. So that post is done. I just need to schedule it, which I will do in a minute. And then the next one is initial customer format, first draft. Okay, so this is, I guess, what you call a lead magnet. And since the thing that I'm trying to do is help early stage founders get their first customers and validate their ideas and launch and grow more quickly, this is kind of the very first step, right? Getting your first paid client. So I need to finish up the first draft. So this is just like a rough draft. I'm just going to sketch out the different points of data that I want to include here. It's going to take multiple weeks to finish this out, like flesh it out, because to make something good that is long form, it just takes a lot of different iterations and looking at things from a fresh angle. And sometimes, you know, I might work on something for a couple of weeks and then scrap it entirely just because I find that the information is not structured in the correct way. So this is the first draft. I just need to get it done. By the way, if you're not familiar with what lead magnets are, it's basically something you can give away at a low cost to you, or something that's completely free to you, that's kind of like a taster for the service that you're trying to offer or the problem that you're trying to solve. And within the context of information products like this, there are two main ways that you can make a lead magnet. One is you give a lower tier version of a complete solution. So that's what this is, right? Which is you are solving a complete problem, but you're doing it in a simpler format that is a lower tier service. So for example, a really high tier service that helps you get your first paid client might be an agency that generates leads and converts them into paying customers for you, right? But you can imagine how that might be a much more expensive offering that someone is unlikely to splurge out on, especially if they're a first time entrepreneur. So what you do is you give away the steps to make that actually happen, and you give away the complete solution. But because it's more like a written version and an instruction manual, it's free for you to fulfill that, right? Like I can give this document to as many people request it, and it doesn't cost me anything more. So that's version 1. Version 2 is giving away a complete solution to a smaller subsection of the problem. So for example, if I'm running an agency in the previous example, instead of doing the full journey of going from someone like generating leads, converting them into paying customers, and like closing them for you, you might say, hey, I can help you figure out your ideal customer profile, right? Or I can help you get your first 10 leads free of charge, right? That would be a complete solution at the highest tier for a subsection of the problem. So I'm not taking them from A to Z, I'm taking them from A to B or A to C, and I'm giving that away for free or for a much lower cost. I tend to prefer the first one, which is the complete solution but a lower tier execution. And I think that's just me, because me personally, I get frustrated when companies do option 2, because I'm like, well, you promised me that you're going to help with this thing, but in reality you've just given me a shittier version of whatever it is that you actually do, right? Like, oh, I came into this fully expecting to solve this problem, but in reality you've just given me a teaser, and like you've just described the problem to me or something like that. And I do think that's probably because there are a lot of companies that do this incorrectly, and I do believe that you can absolutely make it work. But just for me personally, I find it easier to give away the complete solution, because as I'm trying to solve this problem, right, as I'm trying to get someone their first paid client, if I stop at some point along the journey, it feels disingenuous to me. Like, to me, it feels like I'm lying. Maybe that's my own problem, but like, if I know what the next steps are that you have to take, and like I'm not giving you the full picture, it feels like I'm lying to my customers, and I don't want to do that. So I prefer to give away the full solution at a lower execution point, but to each their own. So I've written out sort of the outline of this document, and as you can see, it's really, really basic. I'm just trying to tell the story and form out the data structure of how I'm going to explain this problem to someone so that they can follow along and actually execute. And I want it to be as simple as possible, because if I can't look at this and see the complete picture in one sitting, then I know that someone who's reading this for the first time, who isn't familiar with the solution, is definitely not going to be able to. So my goal here is to make it as simple as possible, just a brief outline of the data structure, and then the next step at some point during the week is going to be to write out a full first draft, so that I can take this from this draft into an actual document that I can iterate on and try and fix. And there are actually two ways. There are two ways that you can publish this, like two ways that you can actually give this away to people. Number one is just like a Google Doc like this. And number two is like a really well illustrated document. Let me find an example. So here's one about giving presentations, right? So as you can see, it's like a much higher level of polish on this thing. And I used to only do this format because I thought it was best to give away the highest quality thing that I could give. But here's the thing, I don't do this much anymore, because this requires a much higher level of perfection before you can actually ship it. And I found that even for a topic that I'm extremely familiar with, like giving presentations, right? Like I've given hundreds of presentations and spent multiple hundreds of hours just like perfecting my presentation technique and storytelling within presentations. And even for a topic like this, like I went through probably 10 different drafts of this one technique, which is a really simple problem, right? And each time, if you have a carefully crafted document like this, each time you iterate on the product, iterate on the pamphlet, you have to the process of rebuilding and relaunching this so much more involved than if you have an evolving document just like this. I got this idea actually from these guys, Interact, which they do like a quiz-based lead generation SaaS, and they had this workbook that was like a free lead magnet that basically was a living Google Doc that you can copy and work on yourself, and it was just so much simpler, and it ticked all the boxes of what I actually wanted this lead magnet to do. So I don't think it's necessary to actually build out a pamphlet and make it look extremely pretty, because ultimately all you're trying to do is give someone some information, and if the information is good enough and it's presented in a way that's, you know, legible and easy to understand, then it doesn't matter like how pretty something is. So this document is just going to be like a publicly available link that I link to whatever the method is that I give this away on. Okay, now I can tick that off. The next one is rejig angle to my journey. So this one is for my newsletter, and I've been playing around with different angles for the newsletter, but I'm basically landing on a similar angle to this channel, which is like documenting the mistakes I make and the lessons I learn while I'm trying to build Gone Venture Club. I need to basically rewrite my ad copy, because before I was looking at other examples of things that worked and they all seem to be very like solution oriented, right? Like get advice from a founder, like interviews from a founder that give you 5 tips to get seed funding, right? Like, and you know, I might be wrong about this, but I think that given the fact that the thing that I'm building is actively in progress, right? Like I'm not done building Gone Venture Club, I'm just getting started. I feel like the biggest value add is going to be just letting people know the things that I'm learning along the way and the mistakes I'm making along the way. And so I'm going to rewrite this copy into something that reflects that a little bit more. And it's going to be the full stack. So from ad creative to copy to landing page, and then like the introduction email, I need to rejig all of those to make it reflect my purpose. Okay, cool. That wasn't so bad. Got that done. Write the email for the guy. So this one is a warm intro that I got to someone off of LinkedIn who is running a venture accelerator program at the University of Illinois. So I'm just going to email him, introduce myself, and maybe book a call. So this is a guy that I'm going to be contacting, and I'm seeing that he's clearly very interested in building up a personal brand. And you know, this stuff like martial arts, it's not really what I'm into, but he's very much into it. Like I'm just doing a bit of research to figure out what he cares about, really, because when you're reaching out to someone, especially in order to ask them for help, whether it's mentorship, advice, or like connections, introductions, right, it behooves you, like it's in your best interest to do a bit of research to figure out what this person cares about, right? They're running a venture accelerator that they're clearly very proud of, and this is something that is most directly related with what I care about. But like if I can figure out what other things appeal to this person, then I can tailor my message to be a little bit more personal, a little bit more geared to what this person is really about, right? Because I'm sure, like, if you've ever been in a sales situation, the person, if you completely understand the prospect, the person in front of you, and you know everything about that person, then it becomes very difficult to not close the sale. So that's kind of my process with this. Okay. So that's the email. Dear Manu, who is the person I'm writing to. Hello, I'm writing to you after an introduction from this person. I greatly admire your dedication to promoting innovation across your student body and your work with iVentures, which is the venture accelerator that this person is running. I also noticed how authentic your personal brand is, encapsulating your dedication to martial arts, family and health, embracing advancements and adventure in both body and mind. I'm starting to build a venture club similar in ideals to iVentures. I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions about the early days of iVentures. Many thanks. And yeah, I'm just going to schedule this to send Monday morning, and that's that. And there it is. Target VCs for connections, right. So this one's going to be using Walaxy, which is a automated LinkedIn outreach program that I use, and I usually have just some kind of a program running in the background, and this one is going to target just venture capital investors, because I'm still trying to figure out what the best way to contact people is to get founders who are interested in the service that I'm able to offer. So I'm figuring out that people who run these investment and like accelerator programs tend to have the most connections and are probably more helpful to me, and so I'm just going to launch a campaign that targets VC investors, so that I can just see if that is true. Okay, cool. So I've just set up a really basic invitation campaign that I'm just going to send out to 500 people that I am importing from LinkedIn. So that's another tick. Next, we have do the business plan. Okay. When I'm trying to figure out what I need to focus on in a business, I find it helpful to map out the entire customer journey from start to finish. And this document is going to change a lot as I'm working on the business, as I figure things out. But it's basically like, here are all the different branches and different options that are open in front of me. And once I have all the options in front of me, I can start to think about, okay, what is the potential return on this particular avenue? How much resources is it going to take in terms of time, money, and attention? And what is the likelihood of success of each of these? And once I sort of have the whole map, I can figure out, okay, next step should be doing this. And while this is running, I can focus on this and this. And you can sort of branch out from where you are and try and put some feelers out, basically, to figure out where you should go next. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so that's done. As you can see, it's nothing very serious. It's very basic stuff, but it's more about articulating what are the different building blocks that I have. So, okay, like, who is my audience? i.e., who are the people that I think will get the most value out of the thing that I can offer? In my case, it's pre-seed founders who are most likely first-time founders, who can be students or professionals. I'm going to need to test this out. Then it's a matter of saying, okay, what are the building blocks that I have that I know I can deploy in various orders to get the result that I want, which is to get people interested in this community that I'm building and help the most number of founders reach their goal of idea validation and getting their first customer. And to me, the resources that I have are the newsletter that I'm building, this YouTube channel where I'm documenting my sort of journey, that goes into the community, which is where people can come in and work more directly with me, and also the workshop and the challenges. So this is something that I used with my previous business that actually worked really well. And it works really well because it's such a clear offer, right? Usually with a challenge, you're trying to get someone to one single outcome. So in my case, with my previous business, it was double your college chances in 6 weeks for free challenge, for example. And that worked really well. And the way that you kind of make money from that is either you charge people up front to make sure they like commit to the challenge, or you use it as a free way to get someone in your sort of funnel, I guess, get them familiar with the types of services that you offer. And then once you can prove to them through the 6 weeks of free work, quote unquote free work, that you are good enough to deliver on your promises, then you can irrefutably convert them into a paid customer by saying, okay, like, you've worked with me for free for 6 weeks. Now, do you want to continue working with me to get Y result, which would be, getting admitted to your dream college, or in this case, getting your first client or first paid customer, right? So it works really well. The problem with this is, I think it's trickier to do on a bespoke sort of one-on-one basis when your main offering isn't an ultra high ticket offering. So for example, here we could in theory add a sort of third column, which is like ultra high ticket conversion to like consulting, right? But that's not really the goal with this particular program that I'm trying to run. And so I've left this out. This is an option, but I've left this out because the whole point of GOM Venture Club is that I want to work with more people. Like, I want a way to help people that isn't just me consulting them one-on-one. And so I've purposefully left this out. And so I'm a little bit iffy about the workshop challenge. The way to do this, I think, would be to make it a online workshop or like an online webinar or like a course that I can give away to people. The issue is I've tried this in the past. I've tried to give away like a 6-week course that kind of condensed down the core lessons of my actual like one-on-one consulting work. I had some trouble giving this away, and given the fact that it was quite a lot of work, like it took probably 2 months of work to actually like film everything down, get everything set up, do all the scripting, make all the assets, make the presentations, practice, film, edit, and like post. Given that amount of effort, I'm not sure that this would be the preferred way of getting people to convert to a paid offer, but I've left this in there for now. It's also because the accelerator format, you think of Y Combinator, for example, the most prolific accelerator. The accelerator format is popular for a reason, right? Because it's effectively a challenge. It's like a workshop plus challenge. It's like you come to our accelerator for Y number of weeks, and then you leave with a better startup, and you're closer to your goals, right? Like, it's a popular format for a reason. It does work. It does get people interested, but I'm not sure that this would be my first port of call, but I'm still going to work on this over the next coming weeks. And then what I do basically is I look at these stages and think about, how do I get someone from one stage to another, right? How do I get someone from just a founder out in the wild to being a subscriber to the newsletter or to YouTube? And the sort of transition point is usually where some kind of action has to happen, right? If you think about it, this is kind of a product. Like, the YouTube video is a product, the newsletter is a product, community is a product, workshop is a product. How do you get someone to find out about your product? So this is advertising, right? So for the newsletter, I'm thinking I'll run ads, and I've also heard about like referral system with other newsletters where you can like refer subscribers to each other, but I think that only really works when you've got a couple of people under your belt. So I'm gonna start by running ads to the newsletter, and that was kind of what you saw earlier with me playing around with different ad copy. And usually what that involves is driving some traffic and just checking conversion rates with low amounts of ad spend and seeing what works, and then scaling up once you find something that does work. And then once you have some people, you can also get people through referrals, which is what the lead magnet thing was about. And then you can have different types of lead magnets, right? So you can give away like a free consultation to you and your friend if you refer your friend, or you can just give away a simple lead magnet like the document that I'm going to be working on. And then with YouTube, I'm probably not going to run ads to this channel, mostly because I think that there's a lot of room for growth for me to get better at making videos. So like I see the gap between where I am and where top creators are in terms of their content. So I don't think it makes sense to run ads to this until I can generate some traffic organically. And it's also because YouTube is quite generous with the organic traffic, especially for new posts, right? So the potential for virality, if your post is good, is quite high on YouTube, I find. So I'm going to stick to not running ads on YouTube until I can kind of crack the formula a little bit more. Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of it. And then you kind of summarize everything into an action, right? So for me, the next steps are going to be thinking about the accelerator and like planning out what I want to do in challenge format. So that would be like crafting my offer, crafting my weekly sort of flow, how to get customers, how to get a founder from A to B, how to get a founder from idea to actually launching their idea to customers who are willing to pay for them. And then once I can do that, I can gather people on board for free. Like I can offer to work with them for free so that I can gather evidence and testimonials. And then for videos and newsletters, so this is for YouTube and the newsletter, I am sticking to a cadence of 1 per week. And then I'll also work on the lead magnets in the meantime. Something that's not included because it doesn't require as much active monitoring from me is like continuous outreach. So that's something that I'll continue to do and like speak to people, trying to find out what appeals to them about a community or like what their main pain points are. That's something that's going to be continuously happening in the background. So I'm not spelling that one out. So we can take this off. Break down the video format. Okay, so this one is more of a way of studying. And so what I do is I want to just pick like a really popular video from someone who I respect, and Alex Hormozy is usually a very good bet, and then just look at how they structure their video, right? How do they structure their thoughts in a way that makes it easy to approach and engaging, right? So this is like learning from the master kind of thing. And usually what I'll do here is pick 1 or 2 different videos that are doing well, that are being recommended, that have high view counts, and then just look at what are they doing. And it's helpful to differentiate between studying format and studying content, right? So format would be what is their background, right? What is their heading? What do their thumbnails look like? Are they talking to a camera directly? Do they have like a co-host, a guest? Is it like a split screen, right? So that's format. And then content is how are they structuring their ideas? And usually what I find is format is more helpful when you're just starting out. So if you have no idea where to even begin, then format is a really powerful thing to study because it gives you some starting point that you can sort of base your ideas off of. And then content, the actual structuring of the ideas, becomes much more relevant when you're kind of settled on a format. So with me, I know that this is the kind of format that works for me with the resources that I have, right? Like I don't have like a studio setting. I can't build my own studio, right? So format is not the issue. What I want to study is content. Like how do I structure my ideas in a way that's more engaging, that people want to listen to? So that's what I'm going to do now. And the way that I do it is this. I will take the link, I'll take the video, and I'll try and get a transcript of it. I use an app called Whisper Transcribe. I got it off of AppSumo with a lifetime deal, and it works fine for me. But you can do it. You can use whatever resources out there. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but they work fine for my needs. And then once I have a transcript, it just makes it much easier to break things down into sections. So today's topic is going to be preparation within the context of work. So they start with kind of a summary of what to expect with the video and what I'm going to do today, blah blah blah, right? Like, so instead of just listening in and trying to remember everything that was said, this makes it much easier to actually go in and break things down into sections, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've just copied the transcript over, made note of what it is and kept a link of it, and what I'll do is I'll just listen to the video, and while I'm listening, read through and just try and notice different methods of laying out information, right? So this is very clearly just like a summary. So you start with a summary of what people can learn to expect, and then give some different examples. It's 2 different ways to prep. Okay, summary and then an example, or different categories. Can't spell. Categories. And then 2 different ways to prep that I'll talk about. Okay, if they prep more, you'll learn more. I'll give you an example. Okay, so this whole first paragraph has been a summary, but within the summary, you start with a sentence of like, here is what you can expect. And then you give out some examples of what different situations you might be able to apply this into your own life. And then it's like, there's 2 different ways. So this is like the actual solution and what you can stand to gain as a result of that. Okay, that's fine. So it's like types of solutions. So again, a summary of the overarching theme plus what you can gain. And I'm just going to go through and do this so that I can use the frameworks that this particular speaker uses in order to learn how I can better articulate my thoughts. Okay, that took longer than I expected, but that was really, really helpful. So after going through and just making annotations like I showed you, I just went through and kind of tried to generalize the overall lesson so that I could turn it into a framework that I can reuse and reapply. And the overall format, the overall structure of this story is that Hormozy is trying to give you a solution, right? So he starts by summarizing the problem. What is the problem? Most people underestimate the amount of work that it takes to be good, and then outlines the goal, right? So what is the goal? I want to reset your bar for what your preparation looks like so that you can become a higher achiever. And then he goes into outlining who it impacts. So this is relevant for salespeople, marketing, content, customer success. Outlines the solution. There's 2 different types of prep that I want to talk about, and then how it benefits you. So it's very, very similar actually to a sales call, where you go through and you're just outlining the problem, you're outlining the summary, you're outlining the rest of the call so that the person on the call knows what to expect. So that was interesting. And then what happens is, if I was going into this, I think I could have seen the summary part, right? Like maybe not as clearly as he does it, but I would have seen that it's helpful to have a summary in the beginning just so that you have an idea of what to expect. But the thing I didn't expect is that he then spends like a third of the video talking about the problem and just like highlighting and giving multiple examples of why this thing that he's talking about is a problem in the first place. And this is again, like, it's so similar to a sales call where you want to go through and highlight the problem that the prospect is facing and just reinforce this idea that it is a problem that you should try and solve. And he gives way more examples than I would have expected. So he uses around 3 story blocks, and each story blocks has this kind of formula where he will set the current scene. So I was doing X, I was looking at making new content, and then sometimes he'll go through and sort of reinforce the authority of the person that he is looking to for advice, right? So I was looking to make content, and then I spoke to this guy who has 16 million subscribers on YouTube. And then he'll go through kind of a trigger point, or like an event, a particular event when something happens that makes him question his original belief. So in this particular example, he was trying to improve his YouTube content, and he was speaking to someone with 16 million subscribers, and then they asked for their Hormozi's prep for this video, and he was like, what is that? I don't know what that is. And then there's the resolution, right? So he sees the prep work and sees that it's like 16 pages of documents for a 15-minute video. And then he learns the lesson, which is that he vastly underestimated the amount of work that it takes to get good at something. And he repeats this like 3 more times with the problems, just so that he can outline the fact that this is a serious problem that even Alex Hormozi has felt in the past. And then, and only then, does he start talking about a solution, right? So this was really interesting, and this is actually probably the biggest takeaway for me personally on this, is that I would never have thought to do this. I would have just assumed that if you clicked on the video, then you know that this is a problem that needs solving, and so I would have just gone straight into the solution, but he doesn't do that. So this was helpful. Okay, I think I might stop the video there just because I don't want to make it too long, but hopefully you can kind of see how I go about actually completing some of these tasks and how they each contribute a little bit to driving the business forward. You know, ultimately, it doesn't really matter if what you're doing is the best possible thing that you could be doing for the business. Obviously, you want to be able to prioritize, you want to be able to strategize, but just getting things done consistently day in and day out, I found has been the most helpful in driving the business forwards. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you like this kind of format, then this is what this channel's going to be like going forwards. So click subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.